Al Jazeera Podcasts.
I wanted to actually not only freeze my eggs, but freeze time.
If you freeze your eggs at 30 and if you thaw them at 40, you have the chance of a 30-year-old.
Deciding whether to have children is a significant and personal choice for women. And if the answer is yes, when? Some women find themselves balancing career priorities with the question of timing. But as we know, our biological clocks don't wait, leading some to consider freezing their eggs. Gaining popularity in the past decade, this procedure has helped to empower women to take control of their reproductive futures. However, in some parts of the world, it still carries a stigma, especially for unmarried women. So I want to know, can we change that? I'm Samantha Johnson, and this is Now You Know, a new series from Al Jazeera dedicated to amplifying women's voices, stories and topics we're all thinking and talking about. This is a safe space where we go all in, so by the end of each episode, you can say, now I know. Zayna Hamarneh is one busy woman. As the co-founder and CEO of Mode Marketing and PR, a creative agency in Jordan, when she was 35 and single, she decided to freeze her eggs. So, Zayna, thank you very much for joining us on Now You Know. I can't wait for us to trade egg freezing stories.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for reaching out. It's super nice to connect with people from different countries, different cultures, and different parts of the world going through the same thing. Makes you feel that you're not alone.
That's true. I'm glad that we found each other, and you're right, we're not on our own in this experience. So when I did come across you and your story, I obviously instantly connected because we both had that sense of relief after our procedures. But I kind of want to go back with you and just ask what made you want to freeze your eggs.
So I decided to freeze my eggs 3 years ago when I was 35. Sadly, we're aging. That's the truth we should all face. Some age better than others. But even if we don't feel getting older, our cells and biologically, we age. And that's a medical thing that no one can deny. I wasn't in a serious relationship back then, and I never wanted to rush into marriage to be able to become a mom and have kids. So this was one of the main reasons I did that. I wanted to actually not only freeze my eggs, but freeze time.
Yeah. Was your career a part of the reason why you wanted to freeze your eggs as well?
I don't think it's my career. It's when I was ready. If the person shows up in your life, you'll make it happen. But I never had this person in my life before. So I was never thinking about it. That's why I was very focused on my work only.
How did you know about the procedure as well? I mean, were you always aware of it, or did you have a really good gyno? Because that was the case for me. I didn't know. I knew one woman, but I didn't know about it until I saw my gyno and she told me about it. So who told you about it?
So I've been looking into that since I was 30, but it was available in Jordan. However, many doctors would avoid doing that because I'm unmarried. Some would tell me it would range in really high fees, which is not the case. Jordan, by the way, has one of the cheapest procedure fees here.
Really?
With excellent medical services and specialists. So I've been looking around. And one day I just called my gyno, who's my actual elementary and high school friend. And I'm like, I want to do it. Let's do it. And she was guiding me through it. And she's like, of course you can do it in Jordan. It's legal. You just need the right doctors and all that. So I've been researching about it. I've been seeing doctors. And it was till 2021 when actually I found the right doctors to proceed with this procedure for me.
So what are the laws surrounding egg freezing in Jordan? I mean, are the rules different if you are married or unmarried?
Okay. So anyone can freeze their eggs. However, you can only do the process of the next process of IVF, where they get the sperm with the egg in the lab and then inject them into your body. You can only do this if you're married.
Aha.
You cannot do the whole process out of wedlock. Yeah.
So if egg freezing is legal in Jordan, then why did some of the doctors reject you?
So there's a lot of taboos and a lot of things that are constrained by the culture. So basically, women out of marriage are not preferred to do egg freezing. So because of the procedure of it, some people do it vaginally and some people do it through incisions through the stomach. The best way to do it is
Vaginally.
through the vagina. But yeah, so many people avoid doing those things for women who are out of wedlock. Because, you know, virginity in this part of the world is one of the most important things when it comes to a woman.
I don't know who you told first in your circle or in your family, but what was the reaction?
My Instagram.
Oh, you told Instagram before you told anybody else?
Yeah, a few of my friends knew that I wanted to do that, but they didn't know that I'm doing that.
Ah.
And it was one friend who I sent him the post and I'm like, listen, I'm super angry. Just read it, proofread it. Anything that needs to be edited, just tweak it for me. I'm posting this on Instagram.
Wow.
So
you didn't talk to anybody. You just thought, you know what, I'm just going to put it all out there. I'm just going to go all in. Put my story out there and just let people know that I'm doing it. So you did this before you did the procedure?
Yeah.
Wow. So that means there was no turning back then. You had to go through with it, right?
Well, I said I wanted to do it. And then actually after posting that, a doctor reached out to me and he was really experienced in that because he was working in a cancer hospital outside Jordan and was doing these procedures on daily basis for cancer patients. So he gave me more confidence in his experience that I'm going with him. My gyno was with me all the time as well. So yeah, so Instagram knew first.
So what was the reaction?
Unbelievable. It was extremely positive. I have a circle of niche followers and I posted that my post in English, and people with similar backgrounds, similar educational background, and women my age were extremely supportive, and men as well, for taking this step forward, because at the end of the day, I was not doing it only for myself. I'm doing it for me and my future partner. So I got really amazing feedback, amazing feedback from doctors a month and a half after actually posting about the procedure and what I did and actually doing it. I had one person come up to me. I was at a dinner out with my friends, and she came to me. She was like, I'm a gynecologist. I just want to thank you for actually pushing this. Our industry needs it. She's like, I have nonstop appointments because of you for women asking about this. The negative reactions I got were not on my posts, were on the Arabic interviews I've done on national TV stations, because they had a wider audience than mine.
Why is that? Why isn't it spoken about a lot more in the Arab world, though?
Because anything that has to do with women's sex and women's sexual health is a taboo. You cannot talk about having your period publicly. But this is all around the world. But in the Arab world, there's this word called da'ib, which is frowned upon, some sort of. That's the closest definition for this word. So you're not allowed to talk about sexual health when it comes to women. In general, in many communities around the world, this is an issue. And when you talk about it publicly, it showcases that you're breaking out this intimate barrier between people and you. And like, you're not supposed to talk about this.
But do you find that, okay, you might not publicly speak about it in the Arab world, but you talk about it in your close circle of friends? Or is it just, we're not saying anything, we're just keeping everything to ourselves?
No, I'll tell you, sometimes if I'm traveling with my friends and there's a group of guys involved and I tell them, sorry, I can't, I'm on my period. Some people would say, oh, really? You just said that in front of men? I'm like, dude, we get it once a month. It's part of our life. Yeah.
When I was doing my research, I couldn't find another Black woman that went through the same thing. And it just seems like a procedure that is only saved for the Western world, or if you're a Western white woman, then this is the access you have. Lo and behold, it's accessible to
Of
to,
course.
to the majority
Everyone.
of us, but it just wasn't documented, or I couldn't find a podcast or a YouTube channel that, I could relate to. So although I found a few stories, there weren't
You
women that
cannot
looked like
relate
me,
to them.
so we could relate. And I just thought, why isn't this, I don't know, being spoken about? Again, why is there, I don't know if it was a taboo, but I just don't know if it was done or if we knew that it was accessible to women like us.
It's more of it wasn't a priority for people to talk about.
Yeah.
When you come from a culture that is a bit more conservative or a bit more, let's say, I don't want to say minority, but a closed culture, whatever color, race, religion you have, your priorities in this culture is not women's sexual health. It's why haven't you been breeding? And it's true, like I've heard it, people telling me like, you're old, you're expired. Some people said that it's so selfish because I'm turning 40 very soon to have a child that I wouldn't be able to care about. I mean, some parents at the age of 25 are not proper parents. And it's my body, my choices, I might not want to have kids. I don't know.
Do you think it's changing though? I mean, look, ever since you documented your journey, your egg freezing journey, has attitudes changed? Has the conversation surrounding reproductive health changed in the Arab world?
Well, I can't take credit for that, but in general, Gen Z is the reason why people are becoming more outspoken. They're more open, they're using social media more. They're normalizing things that our generation was not normalizing. Women's health has been really important, yet very neglected. You have many NGOs all around the world that are now discussing period poverty. They're discussing women's health more. And the aging process is different. If you go back when we were kids and you talk about a woman wanting to having a child at 40, it would be called a miracle baby. Medicine is evolving. Age is changing.
What did your parents say once you told them, or once they found out on social media that you were freezing your eggs?
My mom was shocked that I wanted to have kids because I never talked to them about it. Yes. Because I'm such a career person. I'm just working. And I haven't been in a serious relationship in God knows how long. So my parents never thought this was an option. So my dad asked my mom about the procedure and everything because I took my mom with me to the doctor. They saw the post on a Friday. On Saturday, we went and visited the doctor. And I told her, I want you to ask everything. I know everything. If you want to get enlightened. And they were very happy. And like my dad jokes about it when his friends say like, Yalla, we want your daughter to don't you want to see grandchildren? And you know how it is. And my dad was like, yeah, my grandchildren are in the freezer.
I love that. That's a good joke, actually. I'm going to have to keep that in my back pocket. But good on him for doing that. I'm intrigued to know your process. What was your step-by-step?
So basically what happened is on the second day of the period, I started my injections for 10 days. Before that, I had to do some blood tests, very minor blood tests, a few ultrasounds. And then at day 10, I took the shot that allows your body not to ovulate. And then I took the trigger shot, which allows your eggs to be very flourishing and glowing and ready
to go.
To leave. And did an ultrasound. I took sedation. I wasn't awake during the procedure. And I woke up 10 minutes after, which I'm very alert. So I do, like, even anesthesia doesn't work really well on me. So I'm like, how many? Are we okay? Did we actually get any? Like, tell me if we had 3 good ones. I was worried because you never know.
Did you learn anything about yourself during the process?
Yeah, I'm going to be a tough mom. They are going to know that it was not only 9 months.
It's like, do you know what I had to do to get you guys?
Seriously. They're so hearing about this so many times.
So tell me how you felt after the procedure as well.
Yeah. an amazing relief. It's like something literally heavy went out, like went from my head down to my feet and it's gone. It's like the full pressure of society, of life, of everything. And it gave me some sort of a backup plan, which was very reassuring. But it told me that I can be very picky. And during that process, this is something also that I haven't shared. I was recording like some daily vlogs. I did video journaling for myself. And the last day before heading into the hospital, I recorded a video for my future children. And I told him, like, I wish that your father is kind. So I realized that the only thing I really want is to have a kind partner, to be able to understand everything and be kind to me and my future kids. So this is one of like the turning points. Because, you know, like we grew up thinking we want so many things in a partner. But when I recorded that, I just wished that their father would be kind. So it was really, really something that opened my eyes to what's really important in life.
If you had to pass on any advice to any woman who wants to freeze her eggs, what would you tell them?
Know your body, and please visit your gynecologist frequently. If I was able to do it at the age of 26, I would have done it at the age of 26. Don't wait till you're 35 because, again, biologically we get older. So freeze them as soon as you can if you want to or if you have the need for that. And please keep checking with your gynecologists. In our part of the world, women only visit the gynecologist when they get married. So many people don't know that they don't have any sort of egg left because they've never checked before. Just keep knowing your body, keep your regular checkups going. And it's not a taboo to talk about it. It's not a taboo to care about it as well. And it's your body at the end of the day. Do whatever you want.
It is indeed. Zayna, I love you, girl. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And yeah, you're a breath of fresh air. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for making it a safe space for me to actually tell you all that.
So that's Zayna's egg freezing journey and a little bit of my story as well. Now, I want to introduce you to someone who knows me very well and who was a huge part of my journey. Dr. Aylin is a gynecologist with an expertise in reproductive health. She's here not just to take a stroll down memory lane with me, but also to dive into what egg freezing really is. So, Dr. Aylin, thank you very much for joining us on Now You Know.
Thank you for inviting me, Samantha.
Just to give a bit of a backstory to our listeners and viewers, basically Dr. Aylin is my gyno. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gone through this egg freezing journey. And I remember when you advised me, I think I was about 34 and I'm living in Istanbul. There was an appointment with you. And you said, oh, are you thinking about having children? Would you like, you asked me all the, the questions that, a gyno should ask. I said, I'm not too sure just yet. And you said, you know what, if you're still single in a couple of years' time, when I'm 36, then think about freezing your eggs. And 36 came in the middle of a pandemic because it was 2020. And I made the decision to just go ahead with it. And you really held my hand through the whole process. Hey there, if you're thinking about freezing your eggs, do it. Or at least start doing your research. Overall, I found the experience quite liberating. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future with my love life, so I wanted to take action. And I'm glad I did, because I felt so empowered by the whole journey. But if it wasn't for you giving me the right information at that time, I don't know what I would have done. So you know what it's about because this is your expertise, and I know what it's about because I've been through it. But for the people who don't know what egg freezing is, can you just break it down and tell us what it is?
Egg freezing is the process of freezing eggs for future use. You are freezing your eggs at 34 or whatever your age is at the time of freezing. And then you can use it later at 40, even 50. And it's the same procedure as IVF, only you are not going to fertilize the eggs and making them embryos. IVF, in vitro fertilization, it's the process of growing the eggs of a woman and then retrieving them and then fertilizing them, in vitro fertilization, and then developing these embryos to a stage that can be transferred into the uterus of the woman.
Okay, let's go into our little history and our little journey as well. Because I do want to share like the actual process of it all. You know, the needles, the scans, just everything. You saw me break down, have mood swings. I mean, again, this is in the middle of a pandemic. So everything was just crazy at the time. But can you break down from the very beginning what we do or what happened, and then everything up until and then after egg retrieval?
First, the patient comes to our clinic and we do an ultrasound to see the patient's ovarian reserve. And ovarian reserve is the number of follicles. Follicle means this little fluid-filled structures which contain eggs. To evaluate the ovarian reserve of the patient is to do an ultrasound and count the antral follicle. And this is called antral follicle count. And we tell the patient how many eggs she has. We can do a test, a blood test called anti-Mullerian hormone, AMH. And this two tests, antral follicle count and antral Mullerian hormone test, shows the ovarian reserve of the patients. And according to these findings, we just give a protocol and then decide how much gonadotropins, those are the medications that we use for growing the eggs, how much gonadotropin that the patient is going to use. And then the patient just sees the nurses and they tell them how the patient is going to do the injections by herself. And this is the emotional part of the journey.
It was emotional on so many levels because, you know, whenever I went to see you and I had to wait in the reception, you know, I'd see other couples and I'm like, okay, I'm on my own here. It's, you know, it's a lot to take in. But yeah, there's a point where you were doing all of these injections, and because you have to do it, you told me, was it 4 fingers from your belly button and then outside there? You have to inject every day, but you just get so sore and there's no other place to inject after a while. And you just think, I'm going through all this pain, it might not work. And it does. I mean, for me, it did affect me emotionally.
And for most of the patients who are going through this journey, the hardest part is not having somebody. In most of the cases, the women who freeze their eggs are alone, and even they have partners. They are doing it without the partner knowing that they are doing the egg freezing.
Oh, wow.
So the connection with the doctor and the nurses and the team is very important. Yeah. And after that, it takes like 11 to 13 days, the whole cycle. And you have to come to the clinic like 3 or 4 times every 2 to 3 days. And then when the eggs are grown enough, then we give a trigger injection. And 34 to 36 hours after this injection, we just have the patient into the operating room, and then with a little light anesthesia and with an ultrasound-guided needle, we just retrieve the eggs. By going through each follicle, we retrieve the eggs. And then we put the eggs in a tube and send it to the laboratory. And the embryologist just checks if the eggs are mature or not, because we freeze the mature eggs, which means they are capable of fertilization.
So can you just go through what the risks are and what the success rate is.
There are a few risks. For example, we start the process. You said that I was a little afraid if those injections are just going to give a result. This means that sometimes we give the injections, but we cannot grow a follicle. The patient just do the injections, but after 6 or 7 days, we see that there is no follicle growing, and then we need to cancel this cycle. And even if the follicles grow, when we retrieve the eggs, there's no eggs coming. Yeah. She goes under anesthesia. She goes all these procedure, does the injections, but after retrieval, it's the most difficult part for me too, to tell the patient that there's no egg that we have retrieved.
Is that a common thing as well? Does it happen a lot?
It's common. It's like 15 to 20% for patients who has diminished ovarian reserve, but it's not very common for patients who have good or high ovarian reserve. Yeah, but this is a risk. And there is the risks of oocyte pickup. After oocyte pickup, there is the risk of infection or bleeding, but those are very uncommon. Those risks are very low.
If a woman has decided, you know what, I'm ready to take the plunge, I'm ready to have that baby, let me have my baby. What are the next steps?
When the woman comes to the office again, and then we just decide how many eggs are we going to tow. She has like 10 eggs, and we decide to tow them. And when we tow 10 eggs, there's a survival rate. The survival rate for the eggs is almost 80 to 90%. So, for example, of the 10 eggs, only 8 survived. And the fertilization rate is almost 8%. Then, for example, 6 or 7 of them have fertilized and became embryo. And only 50% of the fertilized eggs develop into blastocyst stage, which is the 5-day stage of the embryo. And it means that of the 10 eggs, you only have 3 embryos. And the percentage of these embryos, if they are normal or abnormal, depends on the age of the patient. And also the developmental capacity of the fertilized egg also depends on the age of the patient. This is why age is the most important thing in IVF success, okay? And for example, of the 3 eggs at 35, or if the patient is lower than 35, the chances of being normal is like 60%, okay? It means that 1 or 2 embryo is normal. So what this means, of the 10 eggs, only 1 or 2 is available to implant. Yeah. When we tell all these to the patient say, okay, I have 10 eggs.
I'm going to have 10
Very
embryos.
good.
It's going to be fine.
10 babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like this. Yeah, so, and if this patient is at 40, for example, the chances are very low. Because at 40, the chance of having live birth with IVF is almost 20%. If you freeze your eggs at 30, and if you tow them at 40, you have the chance of a 30-year-old woman.
Wow. And are pregnancies from IVF generally seen as high risk compared to those conceived naturally?
Yes, there are some risks contributed to IVF pregnancies. Those risks might be related to how the IVF is done, when the embryo is transferred. For example, if the embryo is transferred after freezing, the risk of preeclampsia, which is the hypertension in pregnancy, basically, and increases in these pregnancies. In also IVF pregnancies, there is the risk of pregnancy in later ages, which is preeclampsia, diabetes, intrauterine growth retardation, C-section risk is increased.
So we focused a lot on the eggs, but let's talk about sperm quality and sperm count as well. So does sperm play an equally important role in the effectiveness of an IVF pregnancy?
It affects the development of the embryo. When we evaluate the sperm count and the sperm motility and sperm morphology and the sperm DNA is important factors. And the most important ones are the sperm number and motility, and there are specific morphological changes in the sperm that really affect the fertilization. And if the count is very, very low, it also affects the embryo development. So if there's sperm factor, we cannot have any blastocysts, for example.
And finally, what advice would you give to any woman who is thinking, wondering, questioning about freezing their eggs?
So first of all, they have to know that there's this technique available for women. And they also have to be aware of the age and the success of getting pregnant. Because the most important thing in getting pregnant is the age of the woman. And the other thing is the ovarian reserve, the follicle number. So I advise women to ask their gynecologist if their follicle number is appropriate for their age, because we just evaluate the follicle number, egg number, according to the age. For example, if you're 35, we should just see like 10, 12, 15 eggs in your ovaries on ultrasound. But at age 35, if we see 1 or 2 eggs on ultrasound, there's some abnormality. Her ovarian reserve is diminished according to her age. So this is very important. What our advice is, just freezing the eggs before the age of 35. Or if the patient, even if she is very young and have low ovarian reserve, she can just freeze her eggs whenever possible.
Just, if I may, give a little bit of advice myself. This is nothing medical, because obviously that's not my field, but from someone who's gone through it, make sure you have the right gyno. Seriously. No, I mean, look, I think after the whole process, I had quite a few women in my DMs on Instagram because, you know, I documented everything. And they said that, you know what, I've never, you know, thought about it. Or, you know, the only thing my gyno's ever said to me was, oh, are you thinking about having children? Oh, you better find someone very quickly and get married. And you just think that is not the advice that you should be giving someone. It's just, it's not fair, it's not right, and it's not correct. So it's something from me. And I think I've been very blessed because I had you, and this is your field of expertise. So I was very blessed that, you know, I had you telling me, you know what, Sam, if you're still in the situation in a couple of years' time, then, you know, think about it. But I would say have the right gynecologist. I appreciate you. I really do. Dr. Aylin Pelin, thank you for a lot, basically, not just for coming on for this episode. Just thank you for all the information and the positivity, and just for imparting your knowledge. Thank you. And I'll see you at my next appointment.
See you in Turkey. I would like to thank you because this is very important, and you help women to share this information, to increase their knowledge, to increase their awareness.
So now you know one woman's egg freezing journey and what to consider if you're questioning whether to do the same. Thank you to Zena Hamarneh and Dr. Aylin Pelin for joining me today, and a special thanks to you for listening to and watching Now You Know.